Join, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to your show, Geopolitics Frontline. I'm your host, Major Abhik Chaudhury, and in this episode, I shall be picking up the thread from where we had left regarding Operation Sindoor. We are going to discuss in depth about what, when, and how everything happened. So let's begin this journey, and don't go anywhere. Stay tuned till the very end. Now, across the border in Rawalpindi, shockwaves were felt. You see, in Pakistani culture, jihadis or terrorists are treated as VVIPs. And in these strikes, approximately 100 jihadi pigs were roasted alive. This was a major blow to the Islamic Terrorist Republic of Pakistan. This just meant one thing, that Pakistan was not going to back down, but Pakistan was going to escalate. And they did just that. The very next day, they struck civilian targets in India. They struck temples, gurudwaras, and a convent. And what did they achieve? They killed 15 fatal casualties and 50 plus non-fatal casualties. The message from Pakistan was loud and clear. It did not care if it hurt civilian. It did not care if it struck military or civilian targets. It did not care about any human rights violation. You see, by striking civilian targets, Pakistan was trying to achieve their notion of victory. You see, unlike other armies across the world, Pakistan is one very good and strong army which has never won a war. Pakistan has always had a drubbing against India. Now, because of this, to try and somehow fuel their delusions of being superior, they came up with their own form of victory, and that concept is known as the notion of victory. How do they go about it? Well, in the Indian Army, we are taught tactics in which we are taught that if in case you flank your enemy from the left or from the right and you encircle them and you kill them and so on and so forth, and then upon gaining victory, you send a success signal. This can be through flares or this can be through radio. What is taught in Pakistan? Well, in Pakistan it is taught that whenever the Indians advance, you retreat, you pull your pants down, and then you start claiming victory in your newspapers, your TV channels, and on your social media. And how do you do that? Well, you tell your people that you are Ghazis. Why? Because you killed XYZ 1, 2, 3 numbers of innocent civilians. That is all that Pakistan Army is capable of. Now, to further strengthen the grand delusions of a notion of victory, what did Pakistan do? Well, Pakistan started shelling all across the LOC. And then Pakistan decided that they wanted the title of Ghazi Pro Max. And how do they go about doing that? They tried striking 14 military establishments using loitering munitions and kamikaze drones. Now, here's the best part. Not a single one of these drones or loitering munitions made it to their targets. Every single one of them were decimated and destroyed. How so? Well, India used her indigenous counter-UAS systems to decimate and to neutralize all the Turkish and Chinese origin drones and missiles used by Pakistan. Now that Pakistan had made it very crystal clear that there was no difference between the Pak army and the terrorists it sheltered. So it was only obvious that India was going to go in for the handlers of the Pakistani terrorists. So what happened next? Well, India struck. India struck radar sites across Lahore, Gujranwala, Rawalpindi and Karachi. This led to the Paki army sending across 300 to 400 kamikaze drones from Leh to Sir Creeks. All of these were neutralized, and then the Paki army kept on increasing the intensity of its ceasefire violations all along the LOC. This was also coupled with the fact that the Paki Rangers tried to induct 7 terrorists, and the best part is all 7 of them were introduced to 72 Virgin 7.62 rounds by the BSF. All this while, hidden inside a bunker in Rawalpindi, General Asim Munir was planning his next big move. Bunyan ul Mehsoos. Now, before we move forward, let us try and break this down. Bunyan ul Mehsoos. I mean, I am no expert in Urdu or Arabic or Farsi or whichever language these guys have chosen to name this operation of theirs. But to the best of my knowledge, Bunyan or Banyan, whatever you want to pronounce it as, sounds something like what we call a vest. And Mehsoos means feeling. Now, from what I can make out, Asim Munir wanted to cup a feel of somebody who was wearing a vest. Any guesses about that? Please do mention that in the comment section. Now, while Asim Munir and Shahbaz Sharif were busy playing grab ass inside bunkers in Rawalpindi, their strategic planners had come up with this idea that they're going to launch their Banyan at around 0530 hours on 10th of May. But here came the spoiler. India struck at 0230 hours. 11 Paki air bases had been struck. Some of the most high-tech aircrafts had been turned to ashes, and some of the most sophisticated Chinese radars had been unable to detect what flew over their head. They all came out in the open and said, "Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's a BrahMos." With Indian BrahMos hovering over his head, Asim Munir had wet his bed. And obviously, who does he call? He called up Mr. Shahbaz Sharif. And he informed him that there were craters bigger than the bald spots on his head existing where once there were 11 air bases. Now the time was ripe for the Pakis to launch their Banyans. And that is what they did. They threw their Chinese re-engineered, or rather rebatched, Fatah 1 and Fatah 2 missiles. Now these two missiles, they represent the pinnacle of Chinese and Paki tactical missile technology. They are wonderful pieces of machinery which are capable of evading radars as well as carrying out somersaults. And that is what they did as soon as they came in contact with the Indian air defense system. Somersaults after somersaults, failures after failures. Fatah 1 and Fatah 2 had proven to be a failure, just like Chinese and Paki engineering. Now, having seen his entire inventory fail miserably, the Field Marshal Asim Munir decided that there was only one way to move forward. So he gave a call to Marco Rubio and told him that, "Sir, it is next to impossible for me to come out of my bunker without my burqa. Please make the Indians stop." But were the Americans able to stop India? No. It was only after a phone call by the Paki DGMO, in which he recreated the famous pant-lowering scene of the 1971 surrender, did India decide to call a ceasefire. At approximately 1700 hours on 10th of May, it was announced that India and Pakistan were going to have a ceasefire. But it was also made certain that Pakistan was aware that Operation Sindoor is still on. After the announcement of the ceasefire at 1700 hours, Pakistan had violated the ceasefire at 1701. They sent their Yihas and their Songers across into Indian territory, where they met with the Indian counter-UAS system and the Indian air defense systems. Once faced against these, the Yihas and the Songers lasted almost as long as Asim Munir does when he is with Shahbaz Sharif. Now, the peace was fragile and India had made her stand very clear. Dismantle your terror networks or pay the price for it. Now, while the Indian military was busy busting all delusions of any superiority that the Paki military establishment might suffer from, the other domains of India, such as the cyber, the economic, the industrial, or the cognitive domains, were busy pounding Pakistan back to the Stone Ages. Be it the 30-member diplomatic outreach or the overwhelming fact-checking by Indian media and social media, be it busting the Paki propaganda or the timely hacking of the Paki websites and then using them to further the correct narrative. India showcased that it was fighting in unison for the first time. This was for the first time that India was fighting with the nation as one concept of war fighting. Whilst this was a great achievement for our country, not a lot of countries across the world saw it this way. Countries such as China, Azerbaijan and Turkey went out of their way to aid Pakistan. They sent their hardware, they used their soft skills, they also used their own narrative warfare. And you know what is the best part? They saw it all nosedive along with Pakistani fortunes. Now at the other end of the spectrum were the Israelis, the French and the Russians. They saw that the hardware that they had sold to the Indians being put to good use, getting battle tested, and some of them even went on to create world records. Precision over mass is the new king of warfare. This operation saw a doctrinal shift in India's policy towards Pakistan. The new normal is that any act of terror is an act of war, and that there is no difference between the terrorists and their handlers. India had created a new strategic lever in the form of the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty. India had weaponized one of the greatest fears of Pakistan, that is water. India has even changed her tracks when it comes to dealing with countries that sympathized with Pakistan. Through its outreaches to countries such as Armenia, Cyprus and Greece, India has been able to strengthen its diplomatic, military as well as industrial noose all across the Caucasus region and encircle Turkey. That, coupled with the fact that the India-EU free trade agreement is coming into force, which, by the way, gets automatically implemented into Turkey as well. This has given a massive financial punishment to Turkey for having sided with Pakistan. And the effects of the same can be seen in the recent outreach by the Turkish foreign minister. This operation also highlighted the importance of narrative warfare. Take this figure for instance, that 15% of the entire operational time was spent in combating deepfakes and narratives which were set by the Pakistani establishment. But in all of this, one very big question remains. Did Pakistan learn from its mistake? Did Pakistan decide to dismantle its terror industry? Is Pakistan willing to be a responsible neighbor? Well, in my opinion, it's a big no. Why I say so? 96% of the Pakistani population thinks that they won the Operation Sindoor. Pakistan lost approximately $4 billion worth of equipment, and all its generals can see are all the kickbacks that they can gain from purchase of new equipment. 138 Pakistani service personnel were awarded gallantry awards posthumously for their participation in Operation Bunyan ul Mahsoos. Lastly, I would like to give a little bit of my opinion to the Pakistani army. To its men, I will suggest that you should leave the war fighting to professionals such as the Indian Army, and you should focus more on lusting towards your own cousin sisters. For the officers of the Pakistan Army, please continue stealing from your masses, and do keep in mind that your uniforms went from wearing shirts and trousers to wearing salwar kameez, and I think it is high time now that you should shift to wearing burqas instead. It will suit you guys better. Now finally, before I leave, I'd like to share some of my own experiences during Operation Sindoor. Whilst all the overhead drones and missiles that were flying, on the ground what I saw were a bunch of very brave Tambi tigers, each and every single one of them raring to have a go at the Pakis. We were all ready to fire as soon as we were given the orders. Our morale was high, and despite of the heat and all the hardships that we faced during that time, at no point in time did a single one of my Tambi want to take a step back. This shows the valor and the kind of men that we commanded. Thank you for watching my video. Vanakkam and Jai Hind, and do leave a like and a comment.